Hi, my name is Mark N. Drake. This is my first attempt at a video for my readership. So excuse me if it's a little bit rough and ready. I'm just doing it handheld on my phone, and I have no idea how I'm going to edit it, but I'll try. So this is a quick tour of my home village in England of Bishop Midland, which is in County Durham. For those of you not familiar with British geography, in the north of England, north of Yorkshire. Our next major city is Newcastle, which is about 20 miles north from here, and my nearest town is Durham, which is technically a city but a very small one. So we're in the County Durham countryside. It's a beautiful day in May, so there you go, there's countryside in May, there's blue skies, etc. Down here you can see the marker, I hope, which shows you that this is the edge of the village. I think that's made a pretty good job of that. And alongside me here is my friend today. Say hi, Winnie. Winnie, the labrador, not mine. I'm looking after for my daughter, but I'm sure she'll be a great help. So okay, I'm going to do the tour of this village, and really not because I live here, but because it might be of interest to you that certain elements of it were the basis for Kurso, which is the village in my 1924, I'm stuck in the 20s, 2024 novel Falls of Darkness. I hasten to say that none of the people in Kurso are anything like the people in Bishop Midland. All of them are very nice and not known for any Cthulhu Mythos activity whatsoever. And also Bishop Midland is a very nice place to live, probably a bit unlike Kurso. But with those provisos, the village has provided me with certain inspirations, and I'll share those with you. Might help you visualise the novel a bit better. There will be a few spoilers. I'll keep them minor. It won't be major things about the plot, but obviously if I discuss that somebody does a certain thing in the book, you kind of know they're still going to be alive at least up to that point. But there'll be minor spoilers. Best perhaps if you read the book first and form your own image in your mind of what Kurso is like. But I'll try and keep the spoilers few and far between. Okay, so we're going to start by taking a stroll to the crossroads from which Jack turns when he's driven in the lorry by Perkins, turns right and first catches sight of Kurso. So this is the crossroads, the inspiration of the crossroads in the book. This road here, which that car just turned off, is effectively North Shore Road. You've got the turning left, that takes you past the quarry. I was going to have the quarry in the book, but there's kind of no need for it in the end, and Jack doesn't really go to this part of the village again. Might keep that in reserve for a future book. But there's a quarry in Kurso, just as there's a quarry up there in Bishop Midland. And down there, that's the right turn that takes you into the village itself. These hedgerows, very neat, very well maintained, they're cut back each year. That would not be the case in Darkisle, so these hedgerows would be much taller, and Jack really wouldn't have seen much of the countryside until he got to this point here and turned right, headed down the hill into the village of Kurso. So let's do that. So now we're at the edge of the village of Kurso proper. I don't know if you remember that Jack sort of says he sees a terrace of houses to his right. These are those, and a road heading up a slope to his left, and that's that. That's the far end of Banktop. Banktop features in Kurso, and he's actually just got the same name. It's actually called Banktop in Bishop Midland as well. You'll see what I mean, that most of the roads in Bishop Midland, i.e. Kurso, seem to go up or down one slope or another. We're heading down to the slope to the next crossroads that Jack comes to when Perkins drives him into the town. Right, I'm at the crossroads where Perkins in the book takes a left up into the village. That's the road we just came down. And that away is just a road out to the countryside. Now in the book that's just a rough farm track. There's there's a large whitewashed house that's mentioned, usually much larger in fact. It was actually twice the size, so what you're seeing there used to be an internal chimney flue. But when the road was widened to its current status, half that house had to come down. This is Church Street, which is Church Street in the book, and it's Church Street in real life. That's the Dun Cow. So the Dun Cow's not been a pub for a long time, but the building still survives and it's still got that oldie worldy pub sign above the door. And up there we've got High Street. So that's High Street. Again, it's got the same name in the book. You can possibly just make out a cream building through the trees. That's the old schoolhouse, which in Kurso would be the schoolhouse. And there's a little road, right, it's got like a silvery car parked on it, heads off to the right, and that in the book is the start of Well Lane. In real life it's not, I'll explain that later. But Church Street plays quite a big part in the book, so let's explore that first. So there you've got the Dun Cow, which is the, I should mention, it's the Oh, Buckdarn. Buckdarn is Darkisle for brown cow. So that's the Buckdarn Inn, the Dun Cow, not in anymore. This, as it happens, is Peggy Watson's house. I'm going to walk up Church Street now to, not surprisingly, the church. Okay, so here I'm going to try and actually walk and talk at the same time, whilst being pulled along by this stupid labrador. Go on, Lee, that side, thank you. There she is. Right, so if you recall from the book's description, basically the lane carries up the hill, past some rather nice houses, and becomes a sunken lane because the verges just become higher and higher and higher until they need walls to keep them back. And this is the part of Church Street that we're at now. So coming to the top of the hill, this would have been the ancient heart of the village. The village dates back to Saxon times, and in the early Middle Ages the bishops of Durham established a fortified manor here as their country retreat, hence the name Bishop Middleham. So this is where Jack comes up the hill, not on such a nice day as this, I don't think, and finds to his dismay that the church is abandoned and he's going to find no church records here. So this is St Michael's, Bishop Middleham, which in the book is All Saints Church in Kurso. And there's the entrance up to the church, which doesn't really play a part in the book, so I won't linger there, but we'll carry on. Church Street curves round and eventually goes down into a loop, joins up the main road. But the rest of it is pretty much as it was described in the book, you know, maybe not so many cars. So this is the little green next to the church. You've got the farm building on the other side of it. That large house there between the trees. That's what has the rectory. It never was a rectory really. It just seems to be a good place for a rectory actually, opposite the church, but it's not the village rectory. And this is the lone oak tree on the village green where Jack arranges to meet somebody. And if you read the book, you know how that turns out. If you haven't, I won't say a word. Okay, so next we're going to double back into the village and go up High Street. Look at some of the buildings there, and some of the buildings that aren't there anymore, but were still used as an inspiration. So before I get onto High Street, a little feature at the bottom of Church Street here. This is probably, I think, quite a picturesque little village. Hope you agree. As I say, it dates back to the Saxon times, but most of the houses you'll see in the older part of town getting back towards medieval times. So this is the Dun Cow complex. This would have been stables once at one point. That's proven by this stone, which actually has listed status, because that is a stone where the patrons would stand on that stone and get on their horse at the end of a hard day's drinking. So don't suppose you could be drunk in charge of a horse in those days. Well, they'd stand on that, get on the horse, and away they would go. So that is like a genuine, certainly 18th century. The exterior of the pub is sort of mid 1700s, but there's probably parts of the interior that might go back to the 1500s even. So it's a very old village, which I think helps with a little bit of the atmosphere of Kurso too. This feeling of Kurso being quite ancient and brooding is quite good for my sorts of books. Okay, I'm now not going to go to High Street. I've changed my mind. We'll do Well Lane first, and then we'll do a High Street. So, Winnie and me are now at the entrance of Well Lane. It's an unnamed road, but I've read a book that it was called Well Lane in real life. It's also Well Lane in the book. This doesn't join onto the road that I showed you as being the start of Well Lane. I've kind of merged them together in my version of Kurso. Because the existing road takes you to a new school, which obviously I don't need in Kurso because I've got the existing schoolhouse. Just to mention about the foliage and flowers, etc. Filming this in May, whereas the story is set in June, so the foliage won't quite tally. There's still a lot of mayflower blossom around. You'll see on some of the hedgerows, and these white flowers are cow parsley, which would pretty much have died back and been replaced by a different type of very similar looking white flower called hogweed by June. So the look of it's pretty similar, but it will be a different white wildflower. So, it's gone very dark. Hope that's still with me. Which on screen it shows it really dark. So we're going down to this sort of shady part now, and this is Well Lane, getting down one of those slopes. So we're running down behind the existing village green now, but up there, back in the day, was where the brewery was. And the story I heard was that there was a well down here somewhere that the brewery actually used to extract water from for its brewing. The brewery closed, I about the same time as Foston's brewery did. So just around about the end of World War One, the local brewery, I can't remember its name, were closed, and so did Foston's in Kurso. So now we're walking down the back of the village green, very steep bank with trees on top of it, which is why Jack didn't want to take the shortcut when Justine asked how close Well Lane was. The reason they were coming to Well Lane, of course, was to find the Batties and the Gorhams. Now this would have been their houses, to a complete historical, what's the word? Well, I made it up basically. So basically here, this is the right turn, and there were the two tied cottages for Lisle Farm were here. They're not really, there's just a hedgerow, on the other side of the hedgerow there's the new school. But just imagine there were two tied cottages there, and that's where the Gorhams and the Batties live. This is the right turn the road takes up a track, and this is going to lead us eventually up an embankment, which I was describing in the book, towards a farm. But I'll just kill the video for now and describe that in more detail further up the track. Looking back up Well Lane towards the village, so this is it's a low sort of embankment, it's a causeway effectively, which some students of village archaeology has told me might even originally have been Roman in origin. All this would have been much marshier and boggier than it is today, and so you would need the raised earthworks to get between the various hilly parts of the village. Just to prove it, we've had quite a wet spring, and that part there, that's not normally underwater, it is at the moment. But you can imagine if the water table was higher, you would need, oh, some ducks, you would need a raised sort of causeway to get up to this. And that's why the farm at the top of this hill, which you can't actually see yet, but we will in a moment, is called Island Farm, because originally in medieval times it would have been surrounded by marshland, and it would have looked quite like an island. That's kind of where I got the name of Lisle, Merchant Lisle, being the person who lives there, because Lisle, you know, island, quite similar sort of words. Anyway, we'll go a bit closer. I'll tell you where the heath would be if it existed, which it doesn't. Looking back down the track that leads up to Island Farm now, and this is where I've taken a lot of liberties. So this part of the village, really which side is it? The eastern side of the village I've completely made up. So here in the book there'll be a fence, which as you can see it's not, there's just a gate. And there will be a downward sloping field, as you can see that's sloping upwards, downward sloping field to a line of trees quite close, 100 yards away, and those trees, maybe a bit further, 200 yards away, and those trees will be mapping out the course of the brook. The brook doesn't exist, there's no brook, there's no similar brook in Bishop Midland. And on the other side of that brook we'd be actually looking down rather than looking up at it. We'd be looking down at the edge of the heath, which would be about a quarter of a mile from here. So probably more or less where those trees are there would be where the start of the heath would be, and that will stretch about half a mile away in a sort of an oval shape. Thank you, Winnie. Up there, I don't think you can see it because we're too low down, but up there is Lisle Farm. That gate is private property, so I can't go that way and show it yet, but there's a fairly large farm up there, which is Lisle Farm in the book, Island Farm in real life. So I've doubled back to the high street. This is the old schoolhouse, still in use of building, as you can see. Not school anymore, but that's where Peggy would have worked for her entire working life, effectively. And High Street goes up the slope, and you can see that railing at the top there, and that is on the side of Bank Top. That's the road that sort of curves around and meets the other road that we came down to village on. As you can see, we have no mow May. A lot of councils now don't mow any verges during May to give the wildflowers a chance, so lots of speedwell and a few daffodils still, a lot of buttercups, etc. Very scenic, quite nice. Top of Bank Top, so that is a bungalow, but in Kurso, that's the Emporium, will be there. Post office next to that. Beyond that you can probably see a wall above that car forming a yard. That's where the livery stables are. So this is the village green. It's much bigger than it used to be because here, this end of it here, is where the brewery used to be. So I can show you further what it used to look like. There's the brewery there with that kind of pagoda type roof. I didn't take the building as an inspiration for the actual building itself. But as you can see, this street was much busier in those days. A lot more houses along it, shops along it, and the brewery stood around about here. It was sold up in 1913. Newcastle Breweries. Just checking the name of it. There we go, Forsters. I knew I got Fostons from somewhere. So it's Fostons in the story. It was Forsters in real life. So this was Forsters Brewery. They sold up to Newcastle Breweries in 1913. It was just used as a bottling plant, a depot, until it was finally demolished in 1964. And this very nice green was left instead. And at the far end of it, I'll just show you what they did at the end. They made this sort of, I think, a good deal later. It's called the Millennium Sundial, so I guess around about 2000. They made this, which is actually, that's the known one of a huge sundial. So if we look where the shadow is, it's XVII, hang on, that's 15, 16, 17, that's 5 o'clock, which would be about 4 o'clock GMT, which is about right, yeah, about right, it works, that's brilliant. Also doubles as a village maypole, and of course every summer solstice we built the wicker man there and sacrificed an outsider. It's nice to keep these old traditions going. Right, okay, looking across now, it's there. In fact, if I can extricate myself from this stupid dog, oh, we're in a pain. So across here, you see a house set a bit further back on the road than the rest, behind the soft top car there. That was the old Fleece Inn, closed fairly recently, and that is pretty much where, sorry about that, went a bit haywire there because this stupid dog won't stand still. Thank you very much for that. That's where I set the old Fleece, the sheep, the wayward lamb. That's where the wayward lamb is. I kept the sheep sort of name going. The wayward lamb is much smaller than that, hasten to add. It doesn't really look like that. But that's where the wayward lamb pub in Kurso would be. And we'll look further to our right. Let's pick up the lead again because I dropped it again. Sorry about that again. There is the one remaining pub in the village, which I do my best to keep open. That's the Cross Keys, which, of course, in our story is... Oh, I've got his name now. it's the Boar and Bull. Yeah, it's the Boar and Bull. But that is the Cross Keys. I go there quite a bit. And that's, of course, the Boar and Bull, which is a major component of the story. Off goes the road. In our story, it's the village ends. You go up a lane and rejoin the North Shore Road. It doesn't happen in real life, but again, like I say, everything to the east of the village are pretty much made up. Okay, so that is pretty much a tour of the bits of Kurso inspired by Bishop Midland. So it's 2 hours a day to go back home. So I'm just finishing the tour with a bit of a quick pint in the Cross Keys / Boar and Bull. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Hope you found something interesting about the village and some insight into the Kurso and the books. And thanks for watching. Cheers.